We all go through these different cycles at different times in life. And it doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter what cycle you're in. You're around other people that have been there, done that. History doesn't really change. It just repeats itself. For 10 years straight, I bought a rental house once a month for 10 years straight. Just buy, borrow, die. If you get bored at it, we'll automate it. Hire someone to run it for you. Push it for how far you can take it. And before you know it, you're going to wake up and you're going to have 100 houses in your rental portfolio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Commercial Real Estate Blueprint Podcast. We have a special guest today. It's Alan Schnur. He's a real estate investor, house flipper. Obviously, he's into commercial real estate as well. And he's tuning in to us live from his boat, which is pretty awesome. It's the first time we've had that on the podcast that's parked in Newport Beach, California. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Alan.
Well, thank you, Graham and Jesse. Pleasure to be here and shed some light on a mystical subject matter that can be very rewarding if people have the time and patience, tenacity to figure out. So excited to share with you my tips, tricks, and stories to help influence other people to pick this way of life. I like it, and I like sharing my stories about it.
No, I'm super excited to dig in. And something you mentioned before we started recording too, which is very interesting, is that you said, you're into commercial real estate, but you also kept your residential business alive while you did that. So we'll definitely get into that. But first, I got to ask you, I know you were just on an awesome trip with Nikita, who we know well, and I think a couple other people we know and who might be coming on the podcast soon, which we're excited about. But you were summiting a mountain in Mexico. So tell us how that was.
Sure. We have this adventure group that's a lot of us, or I'd say maybe like 10 or 15 of us are part of. And, real estate can be a lonely career. And the guys that are in this particular adventure group, we all have pretty sizable commercial real estate portfolios from 50 million to a few hundred million. And it's nice to get together with the guys and talk about shop while staying in shape. So for me, I like to say yes to these challenges that come along once or twice a year. I like to build a physical goal into a financial goal and work towards both of them at the same time. So, we've hiked Nepal base camp at Mount Everest. We've hiked Kilimanjaro. We've hiked in Russia, Elbrus, and not even 1 week ago, we just finished this awesome hike. What is it? Pico de Orizaba in Mexico. It's the highest point in Mexico. It's around 18,500 feet. And, it's personal, it's physical, it's a challenge, and, we're kind of a weird flock of birds because as we're suffering, we like to talk about our real estate portfolios and learn from each other. And sometimes we end up partnering up on deals. We find solutions to hard problems. We discover problems we didn't have. Yeah, we just end up doing deals with each other, and we shed light on each other's portfolio. In real estate, sometimes it's hard to hear people talking to you, but if you're with someone for like 7 days in a row on a massive challenge, sooner or later someone's going to say something and you're going to be like, I think I hear you this time. So it sheds light on sometimes complicated subject matters, from cash flow to refinancing, or maybe you're attached to a piece of real estate and you're having a hard time letting go of it. We just finished up an incredible mastermind like 8 weeks ago where the common theme was holding on to real estate that needs to go. So we all helped each other shed some real estate. So good friendships, great challenges, and what's the sense of having all this if you don't stay in shape and stay healthy? Because, if you're not fit and healthy, it's going to be hard spending all that money you're going to make in real estate.
I think it's awesome because everybody at the office also kind of benefits at City Plat. Nikita goes to one of these trips and he comes back and he's fired up. He's like, we got to do this. We got to do that. It's just with these guys and they were talking about this, and man, I got to get on this. And I don't know, he brings like a contagious energy back, and everybody kind of gets fired up. So I like that.
Awesome. Because, I think we range in age from like 30 to 60, and we all go through these different cycles at different times in life. And it doesn't matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter what cycle you're in. You're around other people that have been there, done that. History doesn't really change. It just repeats itself. So we all, like I just said, we all remain open, and we try to listen really hard about certain situations. And yeah, man, it was a great time with Nikita, and we're wonderful friends, and we're on this spiritual journey together, and we both enjoy Joe Dispenza, and we go to a lot of events with each other. So that's what's really cool about real estate as well. You find your clique of friends, and you figure out, what else do you do besides real estate? Let's talk about real estate, but let's go for a hike. Let's go for a seminar. Let's go for Tony Robbins. Let's go take a real estate seminar. Oh, day trading? So we're all kind of trying new things. Like, we want to make money, but more importantly, we want to have fun while we're doing it, and we don't want to get bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah. I've just taken you all over the map. So commercial real estate, residential real estate. For me, it all starts off with residential real estate. I got thrown into this arena. It was definitely a drama. It was a traumatic experience for me. I went to corporate America after college, and I didn't feel fulfilled at all. I actually kind of was always worried about being the next person to be let go. I worked in the World Trade Center in New York City. I'm a New Yorker. And I was there on September 10th, 2001. I left the 101st floor, and I left on a business trip just by chance. I mean, the whole entire group canceled their business trip. And 12 hours later, I wake up, my phone's ringing, I turn on the TV, I see the World Trade Center on fire and just about collapsing. And that day changed my life, gentlemen, because the company I worked for lost 700 out of 1,000 people. I worked on the 101st floor, and I was in the commodity business, which was a real team sport. You really needed each other to do well. Fortunately, the team was 44 people, and that day 40 people died. So I needed to make some changes quickly, and I did. And that's really how I got involved in real estate, because I needed to move from Hoboken, New Jersey to Houston, Texas, and I just had bought a new condo. I couldn't sell anything down there. Everything was worth like half price after those attacks. And I remember I just figured out how to rent the place. And a few months go by, I'm living in Houston. I start paying more attention to the bank account, and I see that it's going up. And that was my real first big aha moment. I kind of call it turning, lemons into lemonade. Life had dealt me a really difficult hand of cards, and I turned it all around by not only waking up in life, but I was also open to trying out real estate. And when I saw that I could make money renting my home, the light bulb went off. And then from that day on, for 10 years straight, I bought a rental house once a month for 10 years straight. While I kept my corporate job. So before I knew it, a decade goes by. These are all like fix, carpet, tile, paint, put a tenant in, and refinance. So I had like 120, 150 houses. And that's really how I got into the residential business. And then the next big change in my life was when we had a financial crash in around 2010, a financial recession. My commodity business wasn't so good anymore, and I decided to just go full-time into real estate. The houses, I always bought really cheap, and they always stayed full. I rented them cheap. I got into apartment buildings. And around 2010, 11, and 12, they were definitely on sale. So every 90 days, I figured out the syndication game. Through syndication, every 90 days for 5 years straight, I bought an apartment complex. If it was in an auction or on an online platform or just brokers bringing me deals, I had a few thousand apartment units 5 years later. I had a few hundred houses 5 years later. And that's really how I got into the housing business. But I got to tell you, the housing business can be tricky. It's not triple net. It's not commercial real estate. When something breaks, the owner's paying for it. And when taxes go up, the owner's paying for it. And insurance, the owner's paying for it. So it all sounds like a lot of money. And valuation-wise, yeah, I guess it was a lot of money, but it was really hard to cash flow, the boat. It was really hard. So one day I just woke up and I said, you know what, I've had it all. I had enough of this. And I sold everything I had in the housing business. It took me like a year to get out of everything. And then I was just kind of figuring out, well, what's next? And then I got involved with shopping centers. And that's how we really indirectly know each other. because my core group of friends, triple net and shopping centers is definitely the way we all got to know each other better, through the power of I feel like I've gone through it all. After 9/11, there was money in housing for sure, but you got to be able to survive it. It takes an individual to be able to wake up every day, and the tenants can be brutal sometimes. But if you can get through all that and work your way into commercial real estate, you're really on your way. That's what I really want to tell your listeners today. A lot of people want to get their feet wet with housing. Makes sense. It's easy to borrow money. Obviously, everyone needs a place to live. So it's usually in the most demand. But also, I would say, why not consider skipping housing and going into commercial real estate, warehouses. Now, I have 1 million square feet of shopping centers, retail shopping centers, around 750,000 square feet of warehouses. So it's all good stuff. It just really depends on, what's right for you. Because you need to figure that out, because you're going to own this stuff for a while. Because it's possible you buy something and it's like a marriage. You're going to be married to it for a while, or a business partnership. You're going to be in business with that person for a while. So you're probably going to get it life. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious. So like when you were doing all these, like you said, you unpacked a bunch there. So like going back to the residential stuff, you said you're buying a house a month. I'm curious how you were financing that. I mean, I guess it was with you, man. Maybe you had a good corporate job, so you had a W-2, so the banks were okay with you doing it. Yeah. And you said you bought cheap houses. So like that's one question. And the other is like, you graduated into commercial real estate, and then obviously a challenge that Jesse and I face is like, we just bought two warehouses in the last 6 months, and they're okay size, is not massive, but 6,000 and 18,000 square feet. And we bought those two, and we own the majority of them, and we're wanting to scale. And I feel like that's just a problem that everybody has, scaling, and how do you do it? How do you finance and all these deals? So I'd be just curious to hear, how you were doing all those residential deals and how you're doing the apartment deals, and then now how you kind of were able to grow such a big portfolio.
Yeah. So, and by the way, we have a duplex as well that's on Airbnb. So
okay.
We have the residential side too.
Okay, let's unpack all of that. The first part of the question was the houses actually back in 2002 cost around $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 a piece.
Oh wow!
So get a bonus, buy a house. Get a bonus, buy a house. I remember all the guys around me back in Houston. They gambled a lot. I mean, they would be betting on wiffle ball games, baseball games, first pitch games, and I would just feel like the gamble for me was to buy a broken house. I knew the land value was $10,000, $15,000 for the lot. So then I was getting like a 1,200 square foot home for $15,000, $20,000. Now, the challenge was, how can I fix it? Carpet, tile, and paint. I met a general contractor, and we always had a deal, and it actually lasts for almost 2 decades. Give me 3 prices, and then that's it. You're going to stick to it. A, B, and C. Is it a $10,000 house to fix, $20,000 house to fix, or $30,000 house to fix? Nothing in between, because that's what I found. Like things would blow up really quickly with general contractors if prices were changing and repairs didn't get done as promised. So you asked me, well, how did I finance it all? Well, I was able to buy, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for cash at a time, and then I would fix them all, and then I would just get in there and refinance them. And that's exactly how I did it. So we had something back in the day called a blanket loan. So we just cross collateralize when you tie them all together and you bring in a bank. And I was getting to the point where they were becoming more commercialized loans. So I'd be refinancing 10 houses at a time, 20 houses at a time, or even 30 houses at a time. And Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac back in the day, they made it kind of easy. I mean, to get 10 houses, one loan at a time, whatever it took. If there's a will, there's a way. I think that rule stands today where an individual can buy up to 10 homes using government lending. So then I would just say, go wrap up those 10 homes. A lot of local banks get community credits to offer a blanket loan, and they must lend to the community under federal guidelines. So the truth of the matter is they probably lend to a more sophisticated investor than 10 people who are going to buy a house for $50,000 to $100,000.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's how I was definitely able to start scaling. I started packaging the houses together. The other part of the question, the duplex. We didn't have Airbnb when I started. It's kind of a tricky business. Like, I think I was just talking to some friends yesterday, Galveston in Texas. which is kind of like a vacation resort area. It's an island, Galveston Island,
Okay.
not even like 1 hour from Houston. And I think they just like outlawed like Airbnb. So now people are panicking, trying to figure out where to sell that. So, and then, I saw that happen in I think Boise, Idaho as well. So you just got to be careful. But yeah, how is that working out for you? How's that business model, Airbnb?
It's going. It has its moments. It depends on the month and where we are in Durham. Around this early summertime is usually our best time, and with it being close to the hospitals, it helps a lot too. It's a great location. It's no vacation market or anything like that, but it pays for itself. I mean, we have paid maybe 4 mortgage payments in total, and we've owned it for 2 years, so it's done well for us. We're thinking about, because we built a system, we hired all the software, and it kept it rented, very well. But if you look at, midterm versus short term versus long term, the amount of effort and headache of short term versus long term, it's just not worth it, and profit difference. So we're probably going to turn it into a long term rental. The reason I asked the question is because me and Graham probably look at ourselves each, like probably 2 or 3 times a week, and like, should we sell Clarendon? But we kind of want to keep it. But that might be something, maybe not just yet, but down the line, we 1031 into a commercial building. But we might keep it. I don't know. It's such a great location. And we've talked about building a multifamily in Durham, North Carolina, as in like a portfolio of multifamily properties, and then selling that off, in the near, probably 10 years, like outlook, if you will.
I found in housing especially when I was starting out, the best way to stay ahead of the curve was to buy as much as you could as fast as you. So I wanted to always spread the risk. So just buy, borrow, die. If you're gonna do it, and it takes so much work to close a transaction. I have some regrets in selling, but I know everybody wants to scale and get bigger and needs more money. But I'm sure you'll find a way, if you don't sell that property, add to the single family house portfolio, and you will still find a way through the power of syndication on taking down larger commercial properties. So I always looked at it as 2 buckets. There was the housing bucket, and then actually 3. There was the flip bucket, and then there was the commercial real estate bucket. And I always love freedom of waking up each day, just asking myself, okay, where do I want to spend more time? Which bucket do I want to work on today? Where's the lending happening? Oh, sometimes your local bank will turn around and ask you to take money for a particular product. Other times, it's plentiful in commercial real estate. So you got to maneuver and follow the lending, and I would keep all those avenues open in the beginning of my career.
Yeah, another question I had too, going back to your story, was it sounded like you really developed a system when you were buying the single family homes, and then when you graduated to the multifamily, if you will, you had a really good system of buying them every 90 days. What do you think, and then eventually taking that into commercial, what do you think system-wise you put in place for yourself that really helped you be able to do that?
First of all, I always had 2 phones. I always had 2 iPhones. So one would be for the housing, and one would be for another business or my personal life. So you really need to figure out how you're going to separate everything, because you need to turn it off sometimes. I mean, sometimes tenants or contractors will blow up your phone, and go spend more time in another business, because you need to keep the momentum going. You always have to have forward momentum.
Yeah.
I really... Once I found the formula that worked, once I knew, there was a time where these houses all were like $100,000 a piece. That was just the formula. Buy it for $25,000, fix it up for, $20,000, be in it for $45,000, $5,000, whatever, slippage. So you're in it for $50,000. It's worth $100,000. Refinance it. Let the bank mark it at $75,000. It's worth $100,000. Put $25,000 down on your pretend Excel spreadsheet. Keep adding up those equity positions. Stay afloat. Keep cash flowing. I only had like $50 or $100 or $200 coming in a month per house. It really wasn't a lot of money, but it was proof. If you could do it once, you could do it 100 times. And if you could do it 100 times, you could do it 1,000 times. And I literally did do housing over 1,000 times. So you really do want to systematize it. I'm thinking of some great books from the past. You have your Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad with their formulas. Michael Gerber, E-Myth. He was really big on, don't work in your business, work on your business philosophy. Yeah, so, there's nothing like reading a really good book about business, especially when you get to like inject your own business into the book and use that information immediately. Because what good's a book if you don't use the information immediately? There's just no way we're going to remember this stuff. I can't wait for the day for AI to, pop into our head and we have a full catalog of everything. But what we did 10 years ago, you're going to have a hard time remembering if it's not part of your financial formula now. So you do want to make sure you have your financial formulas. Stick with success. If you get bored at it, well, automate it. Hire someone to run it for you. Push it for how far you can take it. And before you know it, you're going to wake up and you're going to have 100 houses in your rental portfolio. You're going to have a few thousand apartment units in your apartment portfolio. And then your warehouse business is going to explode.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. That's what we're working on now. We got one deal we're looking at currently, and it's another warehouse very similar to the two we just purchased. One 6,000, one 18,000. This one's 10,000. We've basically got an agreed on price, so we're gonna probably put it under contract this week or so, and then after that we're gonna be trying to raise the funds for the down payment and everything like that.
Are you buying these empty or they come with tenants?
So the first two we bought actually were empty, which was pretty scary. We put it on a 4-month timeline, basically. It was 90-day exam period, 30-day close. So we said we want the right to market these while we're under contract. So we put them under contract, marketed them, and then thankfully the smaller one, I think we found a tenant like a month after we closed, and the second one we actually signed the lease the day after we closed. So,
all right, excellent. I feel like when I first started out, I spent a lot of time at local investment clubs, and it was really good to be around other people that were either doing the same thing or a lot of people wanting to do the same thing, So I hope you surround yourself with the right people. It sounds like you are, obviously, by having this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. No, that was one of the biggest goals. We get to hear from awesome people like you, and we've had this is episode number 48 or 47.
Yeah, like 48, something like that.
We've had a lot of really awesome people in here and learned a ton. And the cool thing, we've kind of started, we wanted to document our journey, so we started with no properties in terms of commercial real estate. And then since then, we closed on 2 warehouses with me and Jesse, and then we actually are partners in 4 more with City Plat, all since the start of this podcast. And so it's really cool to look back and be like, we literally would listen to a guest, go back and be like, all right, let's do this. Like, for like Darren Smith, I don't know if you know him, but he came on our podcast and we were kind of talking to him about one of the deals we had that we could put under contract. And we were kind of giving him the rough numbers, and he's like, that sounds like a great deal. I would do that all day. And so we stopped the podcast. I wrote up a letter of intent, signed it, and sent it. And I texted Jess, I just sent the LOI. And then we got her under contract. We ended up closing on it. So it's been awesome to just learn for people like you guys. So we're super appreciative. But something I really wanted to talk to you about, which you mentioned to me, is that you've been able to do all of this while traveling. And I think there's a lot of people who listen to that and think, oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to hang out at home. And there's also another big group of people who are like, I would love to do that. So how can, I guess, tell us a little bit about what that's been like so far?
Sure. So, we all have this ability, an option to design our lifestyle by choice. And, we see more of it more than ever now, especially after COVID, people not wanting to go back to the office. Well, I didn't want to go back to the office 15 years ago. So, when, 4-hour work week, Tim Ferriss, or any kind of hack that would make me look bigger than I really am, iPhones, iPads, I always wanted to be mobile. And, the beautiful thing about real estate is there's really only so much you can do. You don't have to be there every day. Matter of fact, if you do have to be there every day, well, that sounds more like a job, and maybe you should not be doing real estate. So, the rent checks always came in, or between the 1st and the 10th of each month. It's like, all you got to do is check your bank account, outsource everything possible. And I guess that's something I've convinced a lot of my friends. A lot of us were trying to open up all types of businesses surrounded by real estate. The truth of the matter is, it's a very thin margin business. Even property management. I mean, property managers charge 2, 3, 4% of the gross collected incomes. Give it up. It's not worth the headache. You'll have more free time to go find new deals. You'll have more free time to just chillax with the universe and figure out how to expand your life in different ways. So with these iPhones and just being in the cloud, I mean, everything was in the cloud over the last 10 or 15 years. You could go buy property management software. You could set everybody up on ACH payments or have them just deposit. Even I would just hire everyone. I'd have a law firm ready to go. I'd have a management company ready to go. I'd have a virtual assistant ready to go. And everything just started to fall into line. And then once in a while, if I found myself going into an office too much, it didn't feel natural to me, and it kind of stopped my personal growth. And there's nothing more important to me than my personal growth and the relationships that I create. And being in an office wasn't helping that situation. So, sometimes you got to test the limits. It's like jumping in the water, and you don't know how to swim, and how far are you going to, swim away from the dock until you really figure out how to swim. So I'd start taking small trips. I'd go visit different places in the United States. I'd start, not on the weekends, but, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'd be gone. I'd be 3, 4, 5 days gone at a time. And then one day I said, you know what, let's see how far we can go with this. And I went to Japan, and I probably stayed in Japan for 8 to 10 weeks. And I realized it all works. It's just all online. It all works. And I just started really traveling the world. Japan, Southeast Asia, Thailand, Singapore, lots of islands, Hawaii, and my real estate portfolio started to get bigger. Everybody wanted to know where I was, what I was doing, and how I was doing it, and I just kept sharing it all. And I'm a very responsible general partner, really stern on sending out quarterly reports, making sure everybody gets their payments. I automate everything. So through the process of automation, happiness and love. I don't want to go too spiritual on you, but when you can bring that all into your life, money's nice. And it's going to flow to you like a river, when you're ready for it. But when everything is aligning perfectly, you'll figure out what investments are best for you. And if you like it, just keep adding to it. I mean, if it makes you feel good, why wouldn't you do more of it?
Yeah. We listen to a lot of Dan Martell, and he talks about handing everything off that you don't love to do or want to do, and just getting rid of everything else that drains you, that takes away from you. One of his biggest things is hiring a virtual assistant. Me and Graham are looking at doing that. What are some tips for looking for a virtual assistant, and what would you hand them if you were just hiring one for the first time?
When I was first starting out, I had a virtual assistant who lived in England. And she lived on some farm, and we struck a deal, and she made me look so smart, because not only did she have insomnia, she was up, right? I mean, it's a, 8-hour time difference, 10-hour time difference from where I was living in the States. So it always looked like I was working 24/7. And so it took a few to find the right one. And I know there's a lot of services out there, and people are outsourcing. And I've actually visited a few in the Philippines. You just got to find the right person. And quite frankly, a lot of us are attracted to VAs because we think they're inexpensive and affordable. As soon as you find the right one, you'll figure out what you really should pay them, how much time are they really going to spend in your stuff, and how much can you trust them. I mean, a lot of them are in your email accounts, maybe some personal financial information. I've been very fortunate. I've had one in my life now for over 10 years, and I do feel like I'm on autopilot. And I just got back from Mexico. I'm leaving to Costa Rica tomorrow for 3 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Me and Graham were talking about going there next. It's we were actually talking about that in the gym this morning, actually. We're going to go to Costa Rica next.
Yeah, we went with a group of friends earlier this year in January with a group of 10 guys to Puerto Rico just for fun. We went surfing and stuff. So we want to do something like that annually. And we were like, Costa Rica would be sweet.
It's great. I mean, I just got back from Puerto Rico recently, and I learned a lot about their taxation there. And oh my gosh, if I was building a real estate empire like you two, I'd really consider living in Puerto Rico. It's more or less tax-free once you start living there, and then you transact. You can't do it backwards.
Interesting. That's cool. Let's look into that. I'm curious, what's been one of your favorite places you've been to so far? Or top 3?
Well, I've spent around 15 summers in Japan, maybe 20.
Wow.
So I love Japan. Let's see. It's tough. I've spent a lot of time in Europe, a lot of different countries, and sometimes I'm in California, I feel like I'm on vacation. Maybe we should talk about this since we're on it. I think kind of what started out as a vacation a lot of us buy real estate that we would never live in, investment real estate. Maybe it's so I was once out with a real estate broker, and she brings me over to this house, and the roof was open on the house. It's a glass roof. I'm like, holy cow, this is absolutely amazing. I'll buy it. And she's like, you don't even know how much it is. And I just figured maybe through the power of syndication, commercial real estate, commercial lenders, I'll figure it out. So I was on vacation. I bought the house. This is the house right now I'm sitting behind on the boat. I said to myself, you know what? I'm always buying these shopping malls, these warehouses. I'm always going on these vacations. I visit real estate. I never really see anything that I would live in or want to live in. So I ended up buying this house. I really wanted to push the limits, guys. So it's an $8 million flip house. And I totally gutted the house, and I'm redoing it like it's a vacation home. And I'm scheduled to sell it. The key is going to hold me accountable to it, but sometimes I want to keep it. It's been quite the journey because it's got all the numbers of a commercial real estate deal in size, and it's a house. So yeah, I know we just got off on a tangent, but
no, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So your plan is to exit it though. That's what you're going to do.
Well, you brought up vacation. It's definitely like a vacation home, and yeah, the plan is to exit it because the carry cost it's the price of a few shopping centers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you know what? It's you got to do what you love. You have to enjoy what you do, and you got to be inspired. And this checked all three boxes, and that's a real successful real estate career.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, something I wanted to touch on, you talked about earlier, you said that you were keeping your residential business alive, which is kind of what you're talking about now, flipping and stuff like that. And people nowadays on podcasts and stuff talk about how you have your passive income, which is like your real estate investments and stuff, which, everybody knows is not truly passive. And then you have your active income, which is more of like your day job, or in your shoes, maybe like your flips and stuff like that. It's me and Jesse are learning, like, we can buy these deals and stuff and they're great and we're super excited about them. The cash flow is not yet there to live on. So like you still have to have some kind of active income. So how did you manage kind of your day job, if you will, and then also your investing?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I was, as you get older in your real estate career, you kind of regret selling a few. And I have a few, I have one or two warehouses that don't actually cash flow. And the secret is, okay, well, how can you hold on to this asset and one day cash flow it? And you just said it. Sometimes you have to hold on to it for a few years, pay down that mortgage, get a better interest rate, get a higher rent rate, and then it starts cash flowing. And how do you afford to do that? And we were talking about like a 3-bucket strategy 15 minutes ago. And that's really how you do it. Be it what it may. Maybe you have like a large cash flow coming from one bucket, from multiple properties. You have your flip bucket, which you're calling active income. And then, maybe you have your buy and hold, and you always want to be planting seeds. This is, a little acorn turns into a massive oak tree, right? So you're not always sure when that tree is going to grow, and sometimes it takes a few years. So you have to figure out how to juggle all of this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. A really successful investor over 10, 20, 30 years will figure that out. I'm not actively buying a lot of warehouses right now, but they're starting to pop. They weren't always profitable over the last 1, 2, or 3 years, but now they're, it's like the trees like breaking ground, and it's taking off like bamboo, and it's like 6 feet a day. So that's why you need to do multiple things at the same time. I'm not always like a huge active house flipper. I could be, and my portfolio will have anywhere between 5 houses and 20 houses that I'll actively keep flipping as a job. Then I'll have my cash flowing bucket where I'm depending on that stuff. It's paying my bills. It's making me feel like I have all the time in the world because I'm not trading time for money. And then lastly, what do you plant? What do your fields look like? Those are the ones that aren't making you a lot of money. So you're going to have to find a balance between all three of those. Am I making my point?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So if
We've
you can
even
do
seen
that,
that.
yeah, if you can do that, you're going to have a really successful real estate career. Just don't get too caught up in the weeds. You know,
Yeah.
if something's giving you a hard time, get rid of it. Me and Nikita, we talk about this all the time. If it's keeping you up at night and it's just not worth it, get rid of it. You know, if because there's just too many good deals out there. I mean, you're going to get so good, everything will make you money in life. It's just going to be up to you where you want to spend your time. And is it worth your time? So, what's worth my time right now is something that doesn't take any time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can offer
Yeah.
me, a few $100,000, on a deal, but I got to go spend the next 3 or 4 months of my life, pulling out, what hair I have left versus, I can go get an 8 cap deal that's going to spit off $3 or $4 or $5,000 a month for the rest of my life. Just do the math.
Yeah.
It's like Warren Buffett once wrote a book, or maybe it's a biography of all his stories. It's called Snowball. I hope I'm saying this right. Snowball.
Yeah.
And the whole idea behind Warren Buffett is compounding interest over time. Like Warren made most of his money in the last probably 10 years of his life because he saved every penny he ever earned since he was 6 years old. But the snowball analogy is, right, a snowball starts off small and starts going down the mountain, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what you want to do with your cash flow. And before this iPad goes out, because I only have 10% left, if you have a good cash flowing asset in one of your buckets, just hold on to it forever. Don't be tempted. I mean, maybe you want to refinance, fine. That's how the real wealthy do it. They refinance whenever rates drop to zero. And they do every so often. And then there's that fable of the golden goose, right? Right? I think, eventually, like, the farmer had to kill his golden goose because he wanted more eggs. And then, lo and behold, there's no more eggs coming out of the goose. Don't kill your golden goose. And therefore, when your golden goose is laying you eggs and you have some real estate that's not too profitable today, well, maybe it's worth holding on to. You're repositioning it. You're looking for better tenants. You're looking for better interest rates. Lo and behold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, it's another golden goose.
Yeah.
So, pick your battles wisely.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because that's something we discuss a lot. It's, we're obviously, it's hard to keep that in mind because we're in the very beginning of our career, right? And we're also at City Plata, and they're kind of in a phase right now where they're pruning their assets. And we've heard a lot about it from Nikita talking to people like you, and then also people in Commercial Academy talking about how they're going and selling off their properties and repositioning to get into better deals and stuff like that. And it's tempting for us to say, well, we just bought these deals and we stabilized them and now we could sell them and have a nice big pop. But then it's like the other side of the coin is the guy who's 80 years old and never sold anything. It's like, ultra wealthy, and like it's hard to be like balance the we need to live and survive and pay our bills and the long-term mentality, I guess.
Well, I can tell you right now, my neighbor, she bought her house for $300,000 like 25 years ago, and now it's worth 15 to 20 million.
Jeez, holy cow.
She'll rent it out once in a while too.
That's so cool.
I bet.
Yeah.
Dang.
Awesome.
But guys, I think we better wrap up because I can see there's only 8% left on my iPad.
Definitely.
If anybody wants to reach out to me, I actually like to post every day on Facebook. So I'm Alan Schnur on Facebook, AlanSchnur on Facebook. And then I'm Alan Schnur1 on Instagram. And I'm always doing, it helps me like keep a video diary of what's happening in my real estate life. Just about every day, I do a post on real estate and what I think about it, what am I working on, how am I making money, and just trying to share the love.
Awesome. Well, if you guys are interested, definitely go check it out. That's how I've watched a lot of your stuff. I knew you through Nikita, but I've, kept up with you through Facebook and stuff, and it's always interesting and awesome to see what you're doing. So if you guys are interested, go follow him. And we thank you so much for listening to another episode.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.